Hi everyone. We all believe something about God, ourselves, the meaning of life, and what we believe colors how we live and how we behave. In our culture, generally speaking, there's already an assumption of a spiritual reality. Most people, already believe in some divine being. Now, what you believe about this God or divine being or spiritual entity is going to color the way you live and the way you behave. For example, if you believe that God is male, you're going to be more likely to support patriarchal systems. So there's this concept called the Trinity that is a very basic principle view foundation of how Christians view God. It is this very basic idea that God is both one and three. It's this divine communion of three persons that is all tangled up within each other, and each part of the Trinity is very distinct, and yet there is this unity, this relationship that is so cohesive that God is one. So the concept of the Trinity is never actually spoken directly to in scriptures. It's just alluded to in a very messy fashion. For example, in the Hebrew scriptures, all over the place, there's this emphasis on God is one, and yet the noun used for God is plural. I have a list of all of the verses and scriptures that, if you're interested, you can look them up, and they're down below. So what happened is, in the first couple centuries of the early Christian church, you had theologians that were looking at this going, there's something here and it's important, and trying to kind of ferret out what it is. And there were three main theologians, two Gregories and a Basil. And what they came up with is that basically God is one, but God is three. That God is diversity, but God is unity. So this is really important because it's foundational to how Christians are supposed to view God. But here's the thing. If you reduce it down to just some messed up math problem, you might as well just stab the concept through the heart. The concept of the Trinity is much more like poetry because you've got this beautiful dance happening of mutual love and respect where there's give and take. So instead of having this being, this God that's all about monarchy and power, you have this being that's all about giving and receiving. There's no compulsion, there's no power struggle. It's about mutual love and respect, sharing that love and power. Ugh, I wish I knew how to better. It just leaves me with awe and wonder because this concept is so beautiful. In essence, this idea of the Trinity is like this circle. It's like this network almost, not a hierarchy, because in a hierarchy there is definitely an order of power. And that's not what we see in scriptures as much as we see mutual give and receive. So it's more like a network. And this matters because if you believe in this hierarchy where there's a definite order of power, then you're going to model other parts of your life around that, and you're going to insert that into your institutions. So we see this all over the church, where there's this hierarchy of power and leadership, and we see this in marriages as well, where instead of it being a relationship based on mutuality and a shared power and a shared giving and serving. Instead, we see a hierarchy. So within the Christian tradition, if the Trinity is the most basic view of God, then all the other theologies, the way Christians look at salvation and Jesus and humanity and sin, all of that is going to be looked at from this basis of the Trinity, this basic idea of a swirling vortex of love. All this to say that the image of God that we find in scriptures, as messy and tension-filled as it is, points to a God that at the very core is all about love and mutuality and unity and diversity and respect and divine giving and receiving. And I find that absolutely fascinating and beautiful and full of hope. My hope is that people will start to see this image of the divine and be inspired by it, and that we will start to reflect it more in this world. The end.